Welcome team, I'm pumped to be at 27 Project in this studio with Shaq Mitchell. Shaq, we've been talking about getting on this podcast for a while. So thanks so much for your time. You woke up at 4 a.m. this morning. You've been at South Sydney headquarters. You're going through some rehab training at the moment. You're a couple of weeks away from playing. So I really appreciate your time, mate. Shaq, like I've told you, nothing scripted here. But when I talk, I will definitely ask questions that I know your answers will help somebody out there.
Yep.
So I'm really big on asking how can this help the listener, whether that listener is a young, aspiring athlete like you were once, whether it's a coach who's trying to develop athletes like you, whether it's a teacher, a trainer, whether it's a businessman, woman, it doesn't matter who. There's little lessons that you've been through that I know when we chat will help someone. So, yeah, thanks again.
No worries, H.
Can we maybe start though? Like, let's just share with the listener where you did come from. I mean, you're an NRL player now. You achieved your dream of playing in the NRL. You played for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. You played for the Indigenous Allstars recently, which I was privileged to be on that team and experience that week with you, mate. But let's take the listeners back just quickly to get to know you, and then I'll start tapping into some of your lessons. Yeah. Tell us how you grew up, where you grew up, and the journey.
Oh, mate, first and foremost, just thank you for having me, share my story. I'm originally from the mid-north coast, Taree, little country town. Beach is not far. Where Boydie Cordner country is Albar, so not far. We grew up with young Boydie. Matty Croker as well. He's a Taree boy, well Nabiac, but he's Taree as well. He played against us. Well, not against us. He was a few years younger than us, and played for the arch enemies, Taree Panthers, where we were Taree Red Rovers.
Great film.
Yeah, awesome bloke, mate. Him and his younger brother Harry, they're really good kids, and I was originally born in Sydney, in Camperdown, actually, South Sydney country. So It's actually went full circle. My old man played at South and in the lower grades, and eventually had me at 1996 in Camperdown. So so I was born in like I said, born in South Sydney country, and was reared in the country and been a country boy ever since, until I came back to pursue my dream in rugby league. So
Brothers?
Sisters? Yeah. Got two younger brothers, Latrell and Lionel. We're all a year apart. There's three boys, and we have an older half sister as well, Lakia. She's 2 years older than me. So that's basically our little siblings. So mum and dad, and then just big bunch of cousins and nannies and uncles, mate. Like as any Aboriginal family, we're a massive family. So
why don't we stay there? Let's stay there. The Aboriginal family you mentioned. Now, like I said, it was an absolute privilege and an honour for me to work for that Indigenous Allstar team. And one thing I did learn about the family is so important to you. The uncles, the aunties, the cousins. You just said they're massive families, but it's so important to you. Where can we share where your parents were from and give us a little bit of your Indigenous culture history?
Yeah, of course, brother. Well, up in the mid-north coast where my old man is born and raised was the Biripi country. Up there is in between Port Macquarie and Foster, and it goes out towards Gloucester in the Great Dividing Range there in the mountains. And my mother's originally from the Riverina area, so that's the Wiradjuri country. So that's down here, Griffith, Condobolin. So Barellan, obviously you see the tennis racket, the Goolagong. So that's my other half of my family. That's my mum's maiden name. So so it's a massive family.
Pause. Yeah. You've just dropped a very big name in Australian sporting history. Is Yvonne Goolagong part of the family?
Yes, she is. She's my grandfather's little sister. So
wow, I'm sure that's out there. I should have known that. No wonder you're so athletic, you and the brothers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, I've got a strong family on that Goolagong side, and then the Mitchell side's all rugby league, mate. They're born and bred rugby league players. That's our bread and butter, as they used to say. Football was everything to us, and We were with a hard, rough style kind of footy, so we just head down, bum up, and you just want to rip your head off or sidestep you and make you look silly. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when you said they're very large families, I also noticed you treat people like family as well that may not actually be family. That was pretty special. That was like when you call someone uncle or auntie, it's such a term of respect.
Yeah. It's massive in our culture. You know, our old man really branded us with that, with the symbol of respect. Don't matter what colour, creed you are, you know, and if you're a very respectful person, like, you've earned your respect, and that's what we try and do. We call everyone uncle and auntie, or, you know, cousins or brothers, or, you know, like anything like that. It breaks the ice more than anything, makes them feel comfortable. You know, that's just how we are. That's how we all brought up. Obviously, you've been in a camp with us. And
well, yeah, some boys were calling me Unk by the end of the week, and it was...
Yeah, well, you'll get that.
I felt it as a respectful thing. I also felt old.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's what we even call Cody Unk. Like, he's the eldest out of all. We call him Uncle, or, you know, Tyre and Peachy used to call him Pop. And him and Albert Kelly were the uncles, and because they were the older boys in the group. And I wasn't. They told me I'm not too far off. I said, no, you boys, you got a few years on me, mate. You got a few years on me. So
I tell you what I loved in that camp was Cody brought his son.
Yeah.
And his son goes everywhere with him. His kids go everywhere with him. And in your team room, there was a photo of the 1973 team at the airport. And it's a black and white photo. And Cody didn't know, but I was stood behind him. We were just walking in the team room, and he had his son like this, and it was like a history lesson. He goes, son, have a look. You see that there? Well, that's Arnie so-and-so's husband. And you see that there? That's the guy you met through. And it was this little history lesson. And his son was just in awe of these guys, and also in awe of his father sharing this history. I found Indigenous people very proud of their history, very proud of their sharing their story.
Yeah. Well, like I said it in my previous interviews with with South Sydney, and about like cultural awareness, you know, and we don't write stuff down. Our culture's not about writing stuff down. It's about sitting here face to face and telling stories. Ours is about telling stories and telling verbally, where you can pass it down to the next generation. So this is a few thousand years worth of stories, you know, that we're slowly starting to scratch the surface. You know, obviously you heard the stories in the camp about the way like our people used to navigate with the stars at night, and where the sun rises, where the sun sets. You know, that's east-west. You know, and just old stories, man. Like well, you've heard personally, like it's a connection that we can't explain. It brings us, you know, a sense of how do you speak? So more sense of pride that we, you know, like it's still, our stories are still getting passed on, but no one's written it. It's not written down on paper or on rock or anything. It's not written. It's literally by us speaking, and it's been passed down from generation to generation. The only thing that's been written down is our paintings. That's it. That's actually a visual thing that we're painting and looking up in the sky, or looking, you know, on top of our heads, and we're painting it at the same time. But it's not written.
Yeah,
you can't write down. You can't write down things that we experience as a people. It's literally, you know, we're speaking here face to face with like aunties and uncles, and like we learnt all our stories and that from aunties and uncles and grandparents as well, and my old man as well. My old man's a smart man when it comes to our culture, and we learnt a lot from him, you know, and that's what's passed down to me and Latrell. And me and Latrell are very strong in our culture, and the baby brother as well. He's very intelligent, the youngest fella, so he actually knows a lot more than me about our families, and because he's been around Dad for so long, and you know he's more of a farmer and more of a worker than, you know, football. Even though we try and get back into footy, but you know that's his road and that's his choice, and you know, but just our connection to culture and our connection to our people, it's strong because of the stories that we've heard from, and we sat and listened, and so that's part of our culture, it's part of our Aboriginality. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. I did an episode with Dean Witters podcast episode with Dean Witters, and in fact, if you haven't listened, go back and listen to the episode with Dean Witters. I ended up crying, mate. I ended up actually breaking down and couldn't speak at one stage when I just couldn't help it. I couldn't help feel. It was an overwhelming feeling when you hear about how his grandmother was taken away from her parents, and some of the treatment of Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't speak at one stage, thinking that somewhere in my family down the line, like whether, I don't know if they ever did, but let's say hundreds of years ago, at some stage, someone must have treated someone poorly because they were treated, Aboriginal people were treated horribly. And I felt this, just something come over me. And Dean was the best. He was just like, you got to listen to what my grandmother told me was you can't hold on to that. You have to, how can you change things moving forward? What type of a ripple effect can you have on everyone else? And Dean, yeah, it was a crazy week for me.
Yeah.
Like I'd always felt I'd done really well with Indigenous players. I've respected them, and that's why guys like Dean Witters, Tamanata, who now employ me 20 years later to work with guys like you, because I was like that with them as players. But I realise I could have been better, mate, if I'd known more. So I advise anyone now, any coach that's listening, any teacher, any trainer, go and learn more about the person before you try to then make them fitter, faster, stronger, technically better. Like actually learn about the person. And so even people listening today, if they get anything out of that, so I might even just throw to your own experiences coming to the big smoke, coming to Sydney from the country, growing up with an Indigenous family that love footy, but coming to Sydney is a whole different thing. What was that journey like for you? Because you came down at what age?
Oh, I was here when I was 15. So
15.
I come down with South Sydney. That was my first contract. My first rep team I've ever played for, and played Haramats there. And I was 15 years old, country boy from Taree. Grew up around family, very family orientated kid, and ended up chucking me in the deep end with boarding school. I went to Scots College. Went there for about roughly 2 months and went home. Got homesick and wasn't used to the lifestyle in the city, and had a big major injury at that time at 15. Compound fracture, dislocated my ankle. Was on the verge of playing rugby union with Lloyd McDermott, so the Lloyd McDermott squad. So I ended up cutting ties there with Lloyd McDermott, and then come back playing under the Newcastle Knights banner with the Central Coast Centurions. So they were under Central Coast at the time.
That's right.
Oh, Central Coast, was under Newcastle. Me and Latrell was there. Troll was playing Haramats, fullback for them, and I was playing SG ball with the likes of young Jacob Little and the Savidi brothers, the twins, and Connor come in a bit later, but he started there before me, Connor Watson. But he ended up going to Knox Grammar, I think it was at that time. So he was going to school there, and so we were there at Central Coast playing SG ball and Haramats, our first full rep season. And we actually went to school at Brisbane Waters with Nico Hines. So we went there to school with him. So we known him for a long time as well. So we had a really good connection with a lot of the boys that's currently in the NRL as well. So started from there, and then had a phone call from the Bronx. Wanted to see if they wanted to come poach us to come up north over the border. So. We were up there. We had spent a couple of days up there. Enjoyed our time there. Loved the feeling about the Bronx at the time. And then we had a late phone call from the Roosters, and the Roosters offered us, 3-year gig. And
who was the phone call?
The phone call was at the time our manager at the time, and it was Peter O'Sullivan. Him and Brian Sinclair. He was part of the board there at the time, or he was the recruiter, one of the recruiters or the welfare officer.
Yeah.
So
Somebody.
Yeah, he was one of the big boys up top, mate. He's actually a good bloke. He was actually a really good bloke. They brought us in. We was there for a couple of days, and it's the first time we met a lot of the Roosters boys, and they were very, very, very humble people, like likes of Sonny Bill, Jared Ray Hargraves, Sean Kenny Dow, Mitchell Pearce. Mate, I can't speak highly of that bloke. Mitch Orbison, Boyd Corden, obviously. He was another bloke that tried to pull strings because he's a Taru boy as well, and basically grew up with Boydie, so we know Boydie for a long, long time. So, so he was, that was our journey toward going to the Roosters. Played SG ball, 20s, and obviously trial played NRL, and I went another direction at that time, so, yeah.
Mate, there's little things there I have to go back and revisit to try and share some lessons with the people listening. One of them was you were homesick.
Yeah.
So if you're a teacher now listening, or you're a coach, or you're a trainer, or you're a recruitment guy, and you recruited a young Indigenous boy, 15 years old, from Taree, what lessons could you tell them to have helped you settle in better and not want to go home? Because whoever does this well, it's where the magic is. If someone does this well, because you kids, you boys, mate, the sky's the limit of what's possible with you boys. So whoever listens to this and does this well, how could you have felt better and not wanted to go home?
It was more of a support thing, there's more of the understanding of, of our culture was more than anything. Like, we're a very tight-knit group. We're always asking how we're going, what's going on. We're always welfare. Welfare was massive. It was a massive thing for me. I didn't get it at the time when I was a young fella. It come me personally as well, because I wasn't a very open person. I was very quiet and very placid, and I spoke from time to time, but not very often. Now it's so that was probably me. It was more the welfare checks, seeing how I'm going, coming to pick me up, and coming over like a lunch or something just to talk.
Well, you just said you were a bit quiet.
Yeah.
So even understanding that. So I roomed with Matty Bowen in your camp.
Yeah.
And Matty Bowen, who had a great career and legend of the game, and he tells me a criticism of him was he didn't speak much, like wouldn't talk much in meetings, didn't talk much at all. People thought he was a bit shy and whatever. Until he said, you know what, no one ever asked me, but I grew up, English was my second language. He grew up speaking the Aboriginal language, and in their household that's what they spoke. So it wasn't through being rude, or it wasn't through not valuing that you need to be a good communicator in the game of rugby league, but he just didn't feel comfortable speaking. And no one really ever understood that. So you've come down to Sydney where you're probably used to speaking to just you and your family, and all of a sudden you've got to speak to everyone, and you're at a school like Scott's, and it's a bit overwhelming for a 15-year-old.
Oh, it was massive. Like, we used to go into school and seeing walking past the cows, and in the back of our school, because that's where we all kept our agricultural classes. So where we used to live right in the back of the school, and we had to walk through the back gates to walk up to school, and we're walking past cows and trees and outside life, birds chirping, and kids running around, running stupid, and I came to Scots College. I'm walking across the street, to literally lines of people, lines of young kids, and cars and aeroplanes flying over, and helicopters going everywhere, and the whole there's no birds, no serenity, and I'm looking around going, what am I doing? There's buildings everywhere. I'm used to trees, and then building, and then a tree, and then a building. I used to being a country bumpkin boy and being around rocks, and now it's just concrete and grass here and there, and
so you really struggled with that.
I struggled big time. Like, even the first day, I when I came in to check the school out, I thought, I'll give it a go, and it's all right. It's not bad. Like, it has its own gym. It's got its own basketball court, and it got its own rugby field, and I could run around, and because I was fit back in the day, and I am now. I can't say I'm not now, but back in the day I was just raw running and just constantly running and doing a lot of fitness things, and like I was an active, very active kid. And just coming in, the rules and regulations, and the different time frame, the structure of school. It wasn't for me. I couldn't do it.
So there's a lesson, because without a doubt, mate. Like if my son asked me to go to that school, I'd send him to that school. What a great school! Like all those schools.
Of course, sure.
I might not be able to afford the fees, but if a school like that wanted to come and recruit my son, you would trust them to do so well for your kid. But I'm trying to just share lessons with people that may listen, that how they would needed to understand you to then help you get the best out of the resources they provide, because those schools provide resources that are life-changing. So, that's interesting. And then you mentioned some other stuff about how you got recruited and the first impression of people at the Roosters. You mentioned some names there that I have the highest amount of respect for. So they're good little lessons for people when they're recruiting kids, is, the first impression you got from the likes of Mitchell and Jared and Albo, and so, and I bet you Kath King.
That's a respectful thing too. We still call her Auntie Kath. Yeah. We still call her Auntie Kath. This is going on, what? It's the last time I was there. It was 2017. Yeah. It was the last time. I still call her Auntie Kath every time I see her. Yeah. So that's the respect she's earned from me. Like I've always, when I first met her, was Kath, but then the respect started coming and ended up being Auntie Kath.
I call her Auntie Kath.
Yeah.
I saw her last
Auntie
week,
Kath,
actually.
Man, she was awesome, man. She's done a lot for us when we were at the Roosters, and I still, till this day, she still has my respect and my loyalty. So
awesome,
she's
man.
A beautiful lady. So.
Okay, so we're going to start learning some deep lessons here, I'm sure, because I did come across you. I was working at the Roosters, and you were a young kid.
Yeah.
The first time I ever met, I came over and watched you train. You were training with the 20s, and I just observed, because I'd been told about you and whatever, and I would come and watched. And mate, you hurt your knee that night, and I'll never forget it. You were shattered, like you're on the ground, like you were shattered. And I went back and spoke to some staff. Really, really saw this passion in the game for you that I wanted to help. And then next thing you came in, and you were 148 kilos, mate.
Yeah.
148 kilos. Yeah. We had a little bit to do with each other, but not long, because I ended up moving clubs and but I always kind of followed from afar. Obviously, I was still following your brother, and we had, I'd always, if we're in Origin camp, I'd say, how's Shaq going and whatever, but mate, I didn't actually know the struggles you went through. So you're 114 kilos sitting here today. Yeah. I've just seen you in Indigenous camp, and you were one of the ultimate pros, brother. You were in the room, the team room, prepping before training an hour early. You're working out after training. Like, you were an ultimate pro. Yeah. But when I saw you, mate, you were 148 kilos, obviously struggling with your work ethic in training, your discipline. Talk me through that, because, my God, you're a different man sitting here today. Talk me through the years where we were apart.
Yeah. Well, like you said, like when I done my knee, that was I've been struggling with it before that, and that was with a patella tendonitis, but I ended up doing a bit of the PCL as well. So I was gutted after that, and jumped on the scales, and it was 148 kilos, and it was a rough road in the 20s and into the first grade. So I ended up having my first pre-season with the likes of yourself and Big Travi and all the boys I just mentioned as well, minus Sonny, because that was Sonny's year he left. But it was a struggle, mate. It was a struggle. It was more internally, more than anything. I didn't know at the time that I didn't know I had depression and anxiety. I just kept feeling these weird feelings all the time. Like I just couldn't be around people. I couldn't physically be around people. It was just, I really struggled being around them. And it was pretty daunting for me and my family, and it was strange because, I'm a real people person. I love being around family members and mates, and I was always like that as a kid. I was a happy-go-lucky kid, and then all of a sudden I just something hit me one day and just didn't want to be around people anymore. I just couldn't fathom of actually standing next to someone, and actually I felt so uncomfortable. Even the boys will even tell you at train, like if I've mentioned a few of the boys at 20s, I wouldn't take my shirt off. I would literally go into the shower, lock the door, take my shirt off, and I'll in the shower just my shorts and the shower, could take everything off, strip it, put my things back on and walk out, and then walk straight back out the door. Like I couldn't be around people, and it was day-to-day struggle for me to get up at the train with Stevie Driscoll at the time, with his boxing and his fitness.
Stevie.
He's a legend, mate, absolute legend. He had to come and ring me, and he motivated me. He had to motivate me. People had to literally get up and physically pick me up to go, because I just couldn't be around people.
Where did you realise this was a sign of depression?
I didn't realise until at least 3 years after.
Really?
So I struggled all in 3 years with that. And
so you just hated
I hated being around
going
people.
to work,
I hated going to work, hated coming to training, I hated being around the boys I actually lived with at the time.
And you didn't realise, like, for a kid that just absolutely loved life, loved footy, loved people, loved teammates, you didn't realise because you were just
I was plummeting bad. I was and I thought at the time, I was with my wife as well, and we've been together for 10 years now, and she's been through the whole entire thing, and and she told me stories of what I used to do. I even have arguments with her just to keep people away from me. I just couldn't deal with people. I had to make sure she was in between us, and I just couldn't be around people. I fidget and I start shaking, and
So she saw this?
She saw it way before me,
but she didn't. She also didn't know that.
No, she didn't know until I opened up, until I actually spoke. Because that was the problem with me, being a young fella. I never opened up and I never spoke about myself, about my feelings and that. Like, I never grew up as a person like that. Mum and Dad will even tell you. Like, they had to scream at me just to tell me to open up. I got to the point now, and then it bottled up too much, and then started plummeting down, and then it hit me hard to the fact of, like, I just couldn't be around people, couldn't talk, and then the only thing that really lightened up my mood and lightened myself up was the birth of my daughter when me and my wife was 20. So
yeah, you had your first child at 20.
Yes. It was literally a week before my first pre-season, first NRL pre-season. That was, at that time, that was the happiest moment of my life, my wife's life too. Like, that was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then, went into pre-season, actually starting to feel better about myself, and I actually shedded a few kilos. I was like I said, it was 148, and ended up dropping down to 137 or something. I was like 10, 11 kilos, and I was getting stronger, man. I was benching 150. It was, I was getting strong, but it was the fitness side of things on the football field that I struggled bad. I was behind 2 laps behind the boys, and the boys had to get up and scream at me just to move, let alone catch up with them. It was just a move.
Oh, flashback. You just reminded me, man. You and I were in the same team on the army camp.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Remember? We went to Queenstown.
Yeah.
And me and you were crawling through the bush.
Yeah,
and
we had to go
you're next to me, and and I was running, trying to keep it going.
That camp actually showed a lot of people where I was at, and that camp actually showed myself where I was at, and I was nowhere near.
It broke you, didn't it?
It did. It literally broke me. Like, I ended up doing the same knee again, and on that camp. I ended up trying to doing the crawl, and then I felt a twist and a crack and a pop, and then I was like, oh no, my knee's gone again, and then just downhill again, went straight back downhill, and went back to my dark spot, and then had a meeting with Robbo, probably a couple of weeks into training in January, and he told me, he goes, mate, look, we both know you're not up to the standard yet, so I want you to go up to Wyong and train with obviously the partnership there, and train with their cup side and be up there full time until you get yourself right. And I said, yeah, mate, I've got to do what I've got to do. You know, I can't really say nothing. You know, you're the boss. I can't say yes or no. So I went up there, and then it went from bad to worse. Mate,
when you say worse, at this stage, you still don't know about the depression.
No. This was.
You still haven't acknowledged that you need any help or anything.
No. This is.
How low did we go?
We went low to the simple fact is I was almost 180 kilos. I was literally half a kilo off of being 180 kilos, to where I was having health problems, to highest blood pressure they've seen, and they're wondering why I'm still standing up, to actually literally having a minor heart attack at training, and then to knees, ankles, to mate, you know, to literally I was eating myself to death. I was close to I was basically eating myself to death, where I was sitting at home and just eating everything. I used to sit there every weekend after a footy game and have a carton or two of beers in one sitting. That's not just in a weekend, in one sitting. My health was just plummeting. It was going downhill, and it was scary. The simple fact is, it wasn't me. If I was by myself, I wouldn't have noticed. But because I had my wife and my little one, she was watching me doing that to myself. And my daughter at the time, obviously she wouldn't have known. She was too little. She kept me going, that little touch. I knew there was something there, but I just couldn't find it. And then I had the birth of me second, my oldest boy. His name in our language is Jacan, so it means the sun. So ever since he came, it started brightening up a little bit more. So it fit to his name and fit to his personality, because it started brightening up a little bit. And then, as I mentioned, I had that health scare, the heart attack at training, the minor one, and then I had to finish my pre-season. It was literally like 4 weeks into pre-season up there in Cup, and I had to stop. I stopped training for 2-3 months until luckily around 1 or 2. Couldn't train, couldn't do anything. To Wyong, credit to Wyong, man. Like I've got that club is awesome, absolutely amazing. That club, way they helped me football wise and make me fall in love with the game again. The boys there are awesome, excellent blokes, mate. And
that's great to hear. They're a great club.
Yeah, and they'll forever have my loyalty and have my respect. The boys there, mate, I've made really, really good friendships there.
But nearly,
but at that time, I was
a heart attack, getting to 180 kilos, brother.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. I'm sure, and I know, a lot of people tried to help you along the way. A lot of people, obviously people will tell you, don't eat that, you've had dietitians, you've had this, you've had that. You know how to train. Yeah. Like you used to be super fit as a kid. You actually know what to do.
Yeah.
But at some stage you said, I have to own this. How did this happen? How did you end up saying, I own this. I am responsible for this. Yeah. It's my actions that need to be disciplined. Yeah. Where did the penny drop?
The penny dropped after my fourth attempt of suicide.
Whoa.
That was the penny dropper, mate. That was the eye opener.
Hang on.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gone from
bang, yeah.
Fourth attempt of suicide.
Yeah. But I don't really remember some of the stuff, but that was the darkest moment of my life, was attempting to commit harm to myself. And that was the time. The fourth time was the last one, and it was the one that really changed my life, because my daughter she wasn't walking at the time, or she was slowly walking, but she pushed a door and fell down, and I saw her, and it stopped me. So my daughter saved my life at that time.
Brother, fourth attempt.
Yeah. So it was a very, very, very dark moment in my life, and yeah, that was the final straw. That was the last straw, and my wife also, she copped a lot, man, from myself. It got to the point where she was changing as well. Like she was exactly the same as me. That's what attracted me to her, was she was a happy-go-lucky person, and watch me go through that, and all the shit that I was going through, she was coming with me. And sit back, and I had a good couple of weeks thinking about it. I was driving to work, thinking about it. While I was working, I was in civil construction and thinking about it, and it was just time to change.
So hang on, obviously the penny dropped about the body weight and the fitness. When did the penny drop about the mental health?
Yeah.
Getting that sorted. When because there'd already been previous episodes.
Yep.
So when did you actually realise?
That was going into the 4th year. So that was about just over 3.5 years of going through all that, and then the 4th year was eventually the time that I actually opened up to my wife.
And then you went and got some professional help?
Yes, I did. I got professional help with Weil. Weil helped me with that. The first couple of sessions, and and after that, I was working with Ward Civil, so I was with them, and they've helped me out too. Big ups for massive appreciation for Ward Civil. They've helped me out. Their HR officer, everyone, even to my workmate. Like, they knew I was struggling, and I told them, man, I broke down a few times at work, like screaming at them and carrying on, and they knew there was something up, and they helped me a lot too. But if it wasn't for my wife, man, and she was the one that was going through it day by day, second by second, and if it wasn't for me opening up to her, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So, yeah.
Okay, so if there's any lessons to any wives listening, or husbands listening, or anyone who's looking back, because you let it go for like 3-4 years until it nearly hits rock bottom. Like, if it wasn't for your daughter coming through that door, you might not even be sitting here right now.
Exactly.
So is there anything that could maybe help people that may be going through that type of time themselves?
Mate, I still struggle to wrap my head around it. Like, it's been going on for years now. Like, I'm still struggling to wrap my head around it. To where I needed the help, it was the simple fact that I cried out. I literally bursted, and I just said, I need help bad. And it come to me personally. Like, some people, unfortunately, like I've said in my previous interviews, and people are talking to people before, sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes it gets to the point where they actually do it and actually succeed, and sometimes it does that. Sometimes people get that close knit like I did, and some people actually hit it on the head before it even happens. But it's me coming through it. It's a personal thing as well. I found help because of what happened with my daughter and my wife going through the same, like saying that, me opening up to her, and then my daughter walking in. That's what stopped me. That was me personally. That's what saved me. It was me personally. What actually thinking about them. So my family, my son, my wife, and my daughter. They were the 3 people that I just said, you know what? Now I need to wake up to myself. I need to start doing something, and that was my motivation.
Well, thank you for sharing it, mate.
No, anytime.
And since then, you've had another child.
Yeah, exactly.
3.
Yeah, 3.
And your life is top of the world at the moment, it seems, from watching you. Like, seeing your debut for the Rabbits, and now having a professional career in the game you love, 3 kids. Everything seems to be really humming at the moment. I wouldn't mind going to... I have to ask you about Wayne Bennett, because he obviously he believed in you, right?
Yep.
I talked to your brother about him, and also Wayne has done an episode on here before, and it's one of the most listened to episodes. But there's a lot of listeners who are in awe of his leadership, his man management skills.
Yeah.
He did manage you. He did man manage you. What was he like for you?
Well, me personally, it wasn't. He was more the back scenes bloke, mate. He was he was actually, I couldn't speak to Wayne because it was Wayne Bennett,
You're in awe of him.
I was spinning out all the time. Every time I see him, I'm like, oh, this bloke, mate.
Yeah,
it's Wayne
yeah.
Bennett. But actually speaking to him was, mate, it was so much of an eye opener. It wasn't even funny. He come in and cracked a joke.
Yeah.
He literally is he's an absolute gentleman. He's the people person of all people person. He's the man.
Yeah.
Latrell will tell you, like all past players that's played under him, mate, he is a people person. And the reason why so many players thrive under him is because he actually genuinely cares.
Yeah.
He actually cares about not football. He doesn't even care about the football. The football, that's your job. He cares about the person. That's what I've heard from Latrell, from Latrell's personal experiences with him. It's actual person, the person that he is. He loves the people. He loves being around the boys and being amongst it, cracking jokes, stirring the pot.
And now your current coach,
JD.
Did JD debut you?
Yes, he did. Yeah. I've at the time it's when COVID hit, and I just finally earned my stripes in New South Wales Cup at the Bunnies, and I'll go back to that the Bunnies deal. I didn't. Me personally, I knew that was a long road, and I didn't want the first grade gig straight away. I said I want to work from the ground up, and Wayne teed it up, and Shane Richardson at the time, he was the big man on campus. He was, he gave me an opportunity as well with Mark Ellison. All three of them were in there, so all three in the office, and they just said, mate, look, we can offer you a New South Wales Cup contract, and it's no money on it. And I said, I don't care about money, mate.
Let's emphasise that to the people. Yeah. This is a no money contract. This is an opportunity.
Yeah. So it was no money involved. It was just basically like what you said, opportunity. I said, mate, look, that's what I want. I don't want money. I'll work for my money. I'm working at the time, so I don't need it. And I just said, mate, I just want opportunity to play footy and actually beat where I was. And at that time, my goal was actually playing Cup. It wasn't playing NRL. It was to play Cup, debut Cup.
Yeah.
COVID hit. That ruined the plans, so it knocked me back a year, but that's okay. And came back the next pre-season. I had a phone call from Mark Ellison. Mark goes, mate, I'm looking for a club again, a Cup. I said, yeah, mate, if you got a spot open, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet brother, because you've been training? I said, mate, I've been training now, down. Don't worry. I said, I've been doing my calisthenics because obviously couldn't go to the gym at the time, so going running. And before, at that year when COVID hit, I was weighing about so I dropped a few kilos, so I was weighing about 157 at the time. So I was slowly getting back. And then came back and I was back to square one, weighing at 148. And I was thinking, I'm a bit fitter now, so I'll see how we go. Still struggled running. My coach at the time, Steve Antonelli, he was my coach, and man, I got another bloke, mate, has helped me through my journey at South. So I've said it for my debut recording, mate. He helped me a lot. Him, Jace Doherty, another bloke, and Dane Doherty. He was next year's my next year's Cup coach, mate. Yeah. Beautiful people, all three of them. Helped me a lot as a player, but as a person as well. So Steve told me he kept me going. He saw something in me in the trials where he saw the footballer side of me. So he started seeing the offloading, the footwork at 148 kilos. I was sidestepping blokes that were 2 times smaller than me. So I was actually running and outrunning them, but just the ticker. I did have no ticker. And he come to me the next week. He said after the Dragons trial, and he goes, mate, he goes, brother, he goes, I need to get you fitter. He goes, you can play, bro. He goes, you can play. I just need to get you fitter. I said, bro, I know that. I know. I'm not. That's why I come here.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right, bro. And he goes, I'll do a deal with you. He goes, get down to 130. I'll debut you. New South Wales Cup. I said, sweet, bro. I got you. Literally took me, that was February. That was the last trial. It took me nearly 3-4 months to strip that weight off. I walked up to Steve, gave him a handshake. I said, "Bro, where do you want me?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, I said, "Where do you want me?"
130.
And he goes, "Nah, you're not there yet already." And I said, "Hey, come have a look." Jumped down, I was 129.5. And he goes, "Bruh," he goes, "that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to see." And then a couple of days later, I was 18th man. And stringed another 18th man. And stringed another 18th man. So it took me 4 or 5 goes to sit down 18th man to build that hunger. And coming back to mascot, playing A grade. Building that hunger, slowly building it. Got down to 125. And then straight away, the COVID hit again, that little window. And I got my opportunity to play. And it was against Blacktown Workers at Redfern. Or mind you, they haven't debuted in the New South Wales Cup at Redfern Oval.
Yeah.
Went from there to, he was telling me, "Mate, bro," he goes, I need you to play 10 minutes in the second half, in the first half, 10 minutes in the second half. That's it. And then I jumped on. I said, "Sweet, all right." Played 10 minutes of the first half, sorry. Went on the bench. He goes, "How you feel?" I said, "Yeah, I'm all right. Not too bad." He goes, "Bro, you're going all right. You're going pretty good." He goes, "I thought you would be worse than that."
Yeah.
Chucked me on. 25 minutes come later. I said, looked at him. I was on the bench. "Bro, my time's up." He goes, "Nah, stay on.
Keep going.
Keep going." Got another 2 minutes in me, so about 27 minutes. Went off. I said, "Bro, you got me on for 27 minutes." He goes, "Yeah, I know, because you earned it."
Yeah.
And then when he said that, he said, "You earned it." It just stuck with me. And then I had about 5 minutes off the field, 5-10 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes, he chucked me back on. I said, "Bro, come on, my time's done." He goes, No, I need you to go back on, jump back on. And then the week after, I didn't go. I went from a few of the starting boys at the Cup. I ended up jumping over them because of my work ethic. I started grinding, it gave me the hunger. I started grinding into training, started grinding into thinking about being a footballer. And then, bang, ended up playing Newcastle. I ended up playing 40 odd minutes at 127, 125 kilo.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit again and mucked me up. But I said, look, it is what it is.
So you weren't with the Rabbits?
No, I wasn't.
Up in the bubble?
No, mate, no. I was far from there. I was lucky to make the Cup side, let alone playing NRL.
Well, that's my mistake. The reason I asked you about Wayne, because he was still coaching.
Yeah, I a little bit with Wayne, but not so much.
Gotcha.
He was more like background.
So what was your debut game?
My debut game was Manly. It was last year, Manly, round 8. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Central Coast, where it basically all started. So yeah, all started when it come to constant rep games.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it basically all started. Yeah, Central Coast. So that's where I had my debut. And JD was the man. He was, they were in the bubble at the time, and that hunger overwhelmed me a bit too much, and it started.
So sorry, not last year. The year before you debuted.
No, it was last year. Last year I debuted round 8.
I swear.
The year before it was New South Wales Cup. Yeah, year before that was in.
I feel like I was with the Panthers and we played out in Dubbo, and I feel like, were you on the bench?
I was on the bench. I was 18th man. That was one of the games. 18th man.
See, because I remember.
Yeah,
because I actually had a little proud kind of moment, even though we hated each other. Yeah, I was like, oh, that's really cool to see Shaq there.
Yeah, I was 18th man. That was
so
my.
You didn't get to play.
No, that was I was 18th man at that time, and that was the second last time.
That's right. And
until I played.
That wasn't a game you wanted to play in for the Rabbits that day.
No.
We won't talk about that.
No. I was 18th man Cup at that time. I was glad to be watching that game. I was glad to be watching that game. So,
well, mate, what a story! I tell you. At some stage during here, I definitely need to talk about the influence of your brother.
Yeah.
Brothers, family.
Yeah.
You were the better player. I remember everyone told me you were the better Mitchell growing up. You played in the centres, he was in the halves. Yeah. It was basically Shaq ball. Let's just give Shaq the ball. It was. So I heard all those stories.
Yeah.
But since then, he's gone on to do some great things, and I'm sure you're a very proud brother.
Oh, of course,
of
course.
So we won't. Latrell, if you want to come on the show, we can share your story. This is about your brother. It's about your brother, but we will give him a bit of a shout out and respect, because what a journey he's been up and downs. I was at his club when he made his debut, so I've always had a nice connection where I love watching his progress and where he's been. And I've got a photo of myself and him, and he brought his kids in on his Origin debut year. You know. So he's done some amazing things. Could go down as the greatest ever if he wants to, without a doubt, if he wants to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But he's doing some pretty cool things off the field.
Yeah.
Like that clothing company he's doing. I never saw that in him. I didn't think he was going to be running the business side of things. Like he is a proper leader in your community now. I hear him speak. I hear him hold a room when he talks. How he inspires people. Yep. He's happy to speak on certain things. He is, honestly, if you picture him when I first met him, the Roosters, to now, mate, so impressive. Like, what else is he doing? What's the clothing company he's doing? What's that called?
It's actually more than a clothing country. That's his company. That was just
it's farming.
It's a farm. Yeah,
it's a farm.
It started off as a farm. It branched off into clothing.
Oh,
so see the whole thing was his whole lifestyle. He actually wanted to transfer transfer into normal life after rugby league is actually be a farmer. So that's where Winmara comes from. Winmara is a part of our people.
Is it?
It's our people. It's our clan up in the Biripi country, up in the mountains. So we're originally from the mountains up top.
Right.
Big people from the mountains. So big women from the mountains. So that's the respect for our culture in respect of the ladies and the women, and you know they're the birth givers. They're the life givers, and
life savers.
Life savers as well. You know they've you know and. Like, you know, massive shout out to my wife. You know, she saved my life, and my mum for bringing me in this world as well. And, you know, that's where the respect comes from, because it's actually our name of our people up home. So that's where
he's turned it into
a farm, to a enterprise that could be massive in years to come. It's still building at this time, but him and my old man, they're going awesome. They're actually going really well, and I'm super proud of them, because Latrell's juggling not only rugby league life, but he's juggling that as well. And it's both industries are very taxing.
He's juggling it well.
Yeah, he's going.
I actually asked him. I want to come up. I want to see the farm.
Mate, it's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome.
I saw Cam Murray went up, and
Camo loves it. All the boys loved it, because we actually had a camp there.
Did you?
Yeah, it was only lasted 3 hours, because that apparently all us boys got COVID, so so we got hammered with it. So so we had to pack up and leave the first 4 or 5 hours or something like that. Yeah, so
right.
So we but Cam he went up and he absolutely loved it. Just the lifestyle up there, it's different. It's placid, it's laid back. Everyone's real chill. People know who you are. But they actually, they'll ask for photos, the general type things, you know, Charles more than happy, I'm more than happy, Cam as well, we're more than happy to do that. But they actually sit down and have a conversation with you, and actually stay there with you, and, have a good time, actually enjoy the good time. They actually worry about the good times more than the photo, than the signature.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Mate, I tell you what, I will finish, because I know your wife and children are out there waiting for us. I will definitely go down something that in the business world now, and a lot of teams and stuff, culture is a bit of a fad word, but culture basically is your values and how you live them every day. The good teams live them, the poor teams don't live them. They're just words on the wall, but the good teams actually live them. But I'm going to go away from that, and I'm going to go to what I learnt about the Indigenous culture and their values and their laws. Laws, meaning hundreds of years old, thousands of years old laws, LORES. And it's called your binder. I forget what the animals are that are represented, but discipline, responsibility, respect, and justice is the laws. Now, for the people listening, understand that the Indigenous culture that survived the harshest of terrains, the harshest of country, for thousands of years, the oldest living the oldest living culture in the world, is because in their tribes, they had to be disciplined. They showed enormous respect for each other and the land.
Yep.
They had responsibility within their tribe. And if they didn't, there was justice. There was a spear in the leg, or it was
Very harsh penalties.
It was harsh penalties, right? So I've learnt this about the Indigenous culture and their laws, which are basically your modern day version of companies trying to come up with their values. If anyone wants to live like that, you win.
Yeah.
You don't just survive, you thrive. If a sporting team wanted to live by discipline, responsibility, respect, you win, no matter what. I want to go there with you is because you lived this, mate.
Yeah.
You're 180 kilos. Yeah. If you didn't take responsibility for that, or if you didn't decide to respect yourself enough to sort that out, and if you didn't live with discipline, you can't lose. You can't lose 70 kilos without discipline, brother. You have actually lived those values. Now, unfortunately, some of the responsibility through the Indigenous history and how people have been treated, the responsibility was taken away from some people, and unfortunately now, mate, there is communities that there's people not living with discipline, there's people not living with responsibility, and there's some struggling communities. I feel through sport and through you as examples that if we can start getting some of these kids living the way you lived, living with some discipline, living with some responsibility, living with respect, mate, the sky is the limit. The sky is the limit for you. Yeah. Do you agree with me? Like that's what I learned. 100%. That's what I learned about the Indigenous laws. Yeah. And unfortunately, the way that's another podcast altogether. The way the treatment, the way some communities have gone, they're not living like that now. But you want them to, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, you've seen the environment for the wheat, so that lifestyle that we try to bring in to the camp, it genuinely worked because the game spoke for itself.
Well, it's worked in your life.
Yeah, and exactly.
You
so
lived
in my
it.
life, I've lived it, and like a lot of the boys, they've got their own stories, their own timeline, and they've lived a lot of harsh stuff as well, personally in themselves, and to get to where we are now, where we actually represent our people, that was. That was the responsibility and the discipline in itself as well.
Well, your brothers lived it, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure there was people that said Latrell won't make it.
Yeah. Oh, Cody Walker.
Someone would have said Cody Walker wouldn't make it.
Cody Walker, mate. Okay, me personally, Cody Walker was the one that actually drove me to play because he debuted at the same age I debuted.
26.
26. He was 26 years old when he debuted, and everyone never gave him a shoe-in.
Never.
And he debuted at 26 years old at South Sydney. I debuted 26 years old on his 150th.
Wow. So for the coaches and teachers and trainers listening, there's a lot in the past, mate, that would have seen you 5 years ago, or even your brother, or even Cody at some stage, and they would have just wiped, doesn't eat well, doesn't train well, doesn't have the work ethic, doesn't turn up on time, all this stuff, right? But you have the skill and the instinct like no other person. Like obviously look at you and your brother now. So it's the teachers and the coaches and the trainers that are listening that understand, work with and understand this kid. Let's say we're picturing an 18-year-old you. Understand their life, understand how they've been brought up, understand their culture. Just understand that you may, like that 15-year-old that went to Scots, if you work with them and teach them how to work ethic, teach them how to handle a really tight schedule, teach them about eating well, teach them, like, if you work with them, imagine what you can get.
Oh, exactly.
But there's a lot of trainers and coaches, I promise you, mate, I've seen it, I've been in conversations, I've been a part of this industry for a long time. There's a lot that'll just go, he's lazy.
Yeah.
They'll actually say he's lazy.
Yeah.
And they don't actually understand. Work with them, help them. I reckon that's why Wayne's a genius. Wayne advised me, I remember the conversation like it was yesterday, This conversation was in the lead up to the centenary test, the 100-year test of rugby league, and we worked together with the Kiwis. I knocked on his door, said, "Come on, we need to have a coffee," and we went and he shared just so much with me, and he told me, and he brought up stories of Steve Renouf. And he was like, work with them, work, and that's what I think Wayne's a genius at. Eventually, if they don't work with you and show they want to work, then eventually you make a tough call. But if they work with you and they work with you and they work with you, look what's happened. Like, mate, Cody Walker, sometimes you'll hear people say, "Oh, he's a natural, he's this, he's that, he's been doing that," like, and I just go, well, yeah, there's natural skill, but let's show a bit of respect how hard he's worked.
Mate, he's the most disciplined person.
You know what I mean?
Like you think, like everyone thinks like have their own input of a lot of disciplined people when it comes to Cam Murray. He's the ultimate professional. Mate, I try and mould my things. Like I watch what Cam does, and I'm sitting back going, "Oh, he's stretching. I might do the same thing."
Yeah.
And Cody's like that too. Cody, like you've seen it yourself. Cody come up and pulled us. He's the oldest bloke in the squad. And he pulled me, like all the South Sydney boys, and said, "Bruh, we got to run." "Oh, what are we doing?"
Yeah.
He goes, "All right, bro." He goes, "We got 3/4 pace, 4 laps, 100, jog 50, 100.
Yeah,
four reps of those. We didn't pull it. We didn't tee it up. Joel didn't want to do it. Joel was doing his kick in and his passing and his bombs and everything. He's doing what he usually does.
Yeah.
But he got dragged in because of Cody. Because Cody goes, "Nah, bro."
Well, there's another example. Cody has lived
the
Indigenous laws. Cody's lived them. Discipline, respect, responsibility. And that's why he ends up debuting at 26. So if you think there's these Indigenous players that are just naturals or whatever, no. Well, yes, but they've worked hard.
Oh, yeah.
He's worked hard. It's like saying Usain Bolt's natural, you're born with that. But guess what? At some stage he had to learn that very technical component of using starting blocks.
Well, that's that.
Exactly. Well, there's things you have to learn still.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was an eye opener, because we got up. Me and Latrell got here on just talent. It was the talent, but then the work ethic started coming in, and we were like, "Oh shit, we actually got to do a lot more than what we expected." And then that's when
combine the two.
Oh, mate, like that's something else. If you combine the two with work ethic and also with the talent, there's special things coming. So
Mate, well, thanks so much for your time, mate. I love chatting to you. Mate, I could have chatted all day. Oh, seriously. For someone who used to not even being with people and not even chatting, you're doing pretty well, brother.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. A lot of like you said, a lot of discipline and a lot of self-focus, and I finally come out the other end, and now it's just the sky's the limit, like you said, and I'm just slowly starting to blossom. I'm 27, so.
Okay, quickly then. Yeah. What can you see? What can you see happening?
Mate, I'm working day in, day out.
Aim high. No fear of any judgment here. You tell me what is the high.
Obviously, put on that sky blue Australia. Eventually get up there, and then, that's the ultimate goal. We're competitors at the end of the day. That's what we all thrive for. I want to put the sky blue on, and I want to put the Australian jersey on, and that's my goal. That's my professional goal. That's my career goal. So that's the ultimate. That's where I want to be, and I want to be known as, not just Charles Mitchell's brother. I am his brother, and I love him to bits. And it torments the hell out of me. But
I'm Shaq.
I'm older, but I'm Shaq Mitchell, and that's my legacy is on hard work, and that's what I've said to myself, and that's what I said to everyone else. I don't want no one saying it's not just talent. I said I did this off my hard work. I did this because I wanted to do it.
Let's go, brother.
See, bros.
Let's go. And in the meantime, I tell you what, you are an inspiration to your kids.
No, thank you.
And a lot of people out there. Thanks heaps, mate.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of the best learning you will ever do will be travelling. Give yourself space, time to creatively think, to learn, to meet people, or take a vacation with your family. Give yourself that time. And there's no better person or people or company to help you than the people at Tripadeal. Their experienced agents will look after you from start to finish. They will plan your flights, your accommodation, your car, your excursions, whatever you need. If you want to plan a trip of a lifetime, Tripadeal is the place to go. Tripadeal.com